Welcome to Lockdown UK. Starting to come out of lockdown a little bit, but still doing my own hair, as you can tell. Sorry about the production values on this. Doing it at home on my own. Kind of appreciate all the other crew that now have, normally are involved. So look, I want to talk about the Bright Tangerine and their cage system, especially for this, which I'm very lucky to have in front of me, the C300 Mark III. I've used Bright Tangerine for quite a long time now, since the C200 came along. I've been to their factory, seen the way stuff's made, the amount of passion they put into their gear. Things like these side rails here, they're machined out of a single block of aluminium. It's not a bent piece, so the structure and the rigidity is there. It's not going to bend. It's got no weak points in it. To see the stuff being made and the amount of love that goes into it, it really is quite special. So they've always impressed me. They've helped me out some jobs. They made me a special rig. The guys are always looking for new ways, always looking for ways, improving stuff. So onto this, which is it's the C300 Mark III I've got in front of me, but this cage also works obviously on the identical body on the C500 Mark II, which I think is a very clever move of Canon to make them exactly the same bodies. And then most of it also works on the C200 as well. So, great thing is you buy all these bits and, you can use them across multiple cameras. I know a lot of people have done reviews. I've seen them online already, especially the last couple of weeks. They seem to have been coming out, especially as this camera's coming out in the market. But I thought I'd talk about what I like about it quickly, and share the features that sort of stand out for me. Obviously, already pointed out side rails here, but I particularly like that. That holds the whole thing together. Camera's clamped top and bottom. You've got a long lens on it. It's not all the weight's on that top handle, and I've seen it. Got a big lens on the front here, and people go and pick it up, and it's just bolted to a couple of little screws on the top, and you can almost sort of see the whole thing flex. At least here, all the weight spread evenly. Then it gives you more mounting points if you want it, but for me, that just gives it structure and rigidity. So that's one of the things I particularly like. The other thing they've really done since I used this on the C200, I've taken so much weight out of it. When I first lifted up the cage and the base plate, I couldn't believe how light it was. The old one had a little bit of weight to it. This is amazing, the amount of weight that's gone in it. So sort of starting at the top, working down. I've got the Titan arm, nice piece of kit. Use that for a while, but this here, the top handle is on the dovetail, so you can slide it backwards and forwards. But if you want to pull it off quickly, it'll come off. So you can can it, you can drop it back on if you need to. It slides backwards and forwards, put it in different positions, moves the handle, all of that. Now, interestingly enough, last week, quite lucky, took the C300 Mark III to motion control place, and we shot this on the end of a robotic arm. Now, the thing is, the robot, because of the way it works, has to be mounted from the top. He had a dovetail plate. We locked it straight on here, and you see it on my Instagram if you have a look. And we had this thing mounted on the robot in minutes. Now, normally, Will at the robot place was saying how long it normally takes him to get a camera mounted onto the end of there, and that was a bit he was not looking forward to at all. And then he saw this, and even he said, "Wow, that's pretty impressive." So lots of mounting options there. Lots, I've got a point here, so I can take the Titan off on arm quickly. All of that sort of stuff. Sort of moving down. Camera in and out of the cage is really good. There's 4 screws, and you've got 2 in the bottom. But the great thing is you don't need to pull the whole cage apart. If you undo those screws. And when I say also as well, you have the 4 on the top, that's really holding it tightly. But you can pull out the camera if you wanted to swap it over, or get the camera out so you can completely strip it down. It's a really fast release. I've just swapped this over from the C500 I had in here before, and it literally took me minutes to swap it over. I've got a Bright Tangerine matte box on the front. I use that a lot, but that's not that's another great piece of kit. But going back to the cage, so down here there's a quick release plate. Now this is very clever. It's got 2 positions on it. It's got a little safety lock, and if you flick this forward, it unlocks into that position, and I can now slide this backwards and forwards on the dovetail. Now, if there's another little lock in here, if I push this forward and press there, this just lifts off really quickly. Now the great thing about having that safety clip, and there it goes back on again. Now if I pull it to here, can't quite see, but if I pull it to there, that now won't lift off, so you're not going to drop the camera. So you physically have to press the second one. Now if you pull it back, it locks back into there, away it goes. Now, clever little things that I think they've really done here, and a lot of people haven't picked up on this, but if I go to the underneath on the base here, there are two little pins here, which normally stick up, and when you sit a camera down like that, it rocks it a little bit. They're on springs, so again, you know, you're not ending up with some issues in there. So look, see that straight back on there. Pull that back. I now know the camera's safe, but I can still slide it backwards and forwards. Pull it here, and it's now locked. Other little things that I really like, I mean, I've got the handle here, you know, which some people want to use. You might want to, you might not, but this is now secured to the cage, so it's not, you know, not on the body. Take it off, put it on. So if you want to hand hold it, you know, which I do a lot, and I do use this handle. I mean, I've shot with it. I mean, this follow focus arm is so strong, but I quite often pick up the camera and I actually end up holding it. So I end up picking up the camera and I actually end up holding it like this, you know, especially with the monitor or even with the EVF. But, you know, that gives me a nice bit of rigidity there. So, you know, a lot of little bits and pieces there that I find really useful. Bang it straight back on again, lock it down. You have the drumsticks rails on there. I mean, if anyone's picked those up, they are so light. I mean, quite incredible how lightweight they are. So for me, what this does is, I mean, it really turns the camera into something that you can use really quickly, really easily. You know, you've got all the accessory mounting points. You know, if you want longer rails at the back, I'd mount a V-lock normally on the back of here. You know, run power, all of that kind of stuff. So it just gives me extra security and tightness as well, and rigidity in the camera. You know, the way it's all held together, and you know, it really is a nice piece of kit. So I certainly wouldn't go out and shoot